Hi guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So I've been doing a little bit of a few videos now on how to make your own games for the Intellivision, and I've talked a little bit about these books. Programming games for the Intellivision, I did a video on this when I first bought this book, just to kind of talk about the adventure that I was going to begin in trying to create and write my own games and make my own Intellivision games. Now this book, obviously, I recommend if you want to start coding, if you want to start, learning and understanding how to program for Intellivision, this was exactly the perfect book for that to start with, because there's two books, and the other one is the one I just picked up now, and that's the Advanced Game Programming for Intellivision. And I kind of made the right decision, because when I first looked at the two books, I thought, well, should I just start with the basic one, or the first one? Or should I go with just grab the advanced one and just jump right in? Now the thing is, both books actually have a lot in common in that they run through a lot of game code. You're able to type them out and put them up on the screen and, get a game out of it. However, the first book, it does run through some of the very basics that you're going to need to understand. Now, the thing is, and the thing I like about the second book, and I kind of wish I bought them together because, I was kind of afraid that if I picked this up and I was lost or I couldn't figure it out or it was too complicated for me, then buying both books would have been a waste. But on the other side of the coin, there is some stuff that's missing from this. And that's not that Oscar, the author, Oscar Toledo G, it's not that he didn't want to add it or forgot to add it. It's just to keep the book at a reasonable amount of pages and to not go on and on and on, he had to cut out some of the information. Now, as far as like understanding NT-Basic and understanding how to program in NT-Basic, it's all going to be up to your skill level. One of the best resources I had was going on the Atari Age forum and asking a lot of questions, asking Oscar himself some questions through Facebook. Which he was always nice enough to answer my questions. And I kind of felt like, I probably should be able to research this on my own, but there was just some stuff that wasn't clear to me. And that's why this book actually does complement the other book. So if you're thinking about jumping in, I would definitely recommend starting with the first book. But the second book, actually, the very first chapter of the second book, is all the stuff that he didn't include in the first book that complement it. So, like he jumps right in with graphics, not graphics, but color, which allow you to create the graphics. There is some stuff in the first book that run through that, but it's not crystal clear as to what is happening and why it's happening. And so this one actually jumps into, the color stack, the mode, the stuff that you need to understand to make the background colors, the stuff that you need to understand to make all the different colors the Intellivision has to offer. He also runs into the NT-Basic. This is an example of a software that comes with NT-Basic. And he runs into NT-Color, which allows you to actually take an image that you create on your computer in graphic format, in a bitmap format, BMP, bump format, whatever you want to call it, and actually convert it into code, so you don't have to actually hard code and create the graphics. So he goes into a little bit more depth on how that works. And then he also talks about if you're going to get into video game creation, a lot of things are collisions. And that's one of the things that was very difficult for me to figure out from the first book, was how do collisions work? If you don't know what I'm talking about, essentially a collision is when two things on the screen touch each other. So if you have a missile shooting across the screen and it hits an airplane, for example, there's a collision there. And you need to be able to detect that when you're coding, so you know that that missile hit that airplane. So he explains a little bit more in depth in the second book here. So I really do think that this book does complement it. And the other thing is this does not start you at the beginning. And that was one of the things I kind of wondered when I wanted to pick up the two books, is do I need the first book, or is the second book just going to be sufficient enough? And the answer is it's not. It doesn't start you at the beginning. It really just dives right into code as if you already have been coding. So I recommend, if you're going to pick up these books, start with the first one. If you really feel confident, get them both together, like I said, because this one does answer some questions, especially in the first chapter. Now, what this book is also going to do for you is it's going to give you more insight on how to design the games. Because coding is one aspect of creating a game. Designing it is a whole different ballpark. He'll give you in here the tools on how to literally design parts on graph paper and how to translate that into your code. Another thing that he dives into in this one, which is only really just touched upon in the first book, is music and sound effects. Because you really only get like the first, or I think the second chapter in the first book talks a little bit about how music works, but it doesn't go in depth. This one actually goes in depth and actually talks about conversion, which is something I had to try and figure out on my own, going through the forums, just, messing around. But this actually dives right into how to take sheet music and convert that into video game music. And in sound effects, again, the sound effects always were something that I was kind of stuck on. I ended up having to look at how some of the sound effects in the games worked in this book. But this actually goes into detail as to what's going on and how those sound effects are actually generated. So I think that this actually does work as a very good complementary follow-up to the first book. It's not meant to replace the first book. It's a follow-up and a complementary guide into creating games. Another thing that was in this book that I kind of liked, because the first book really didn't touch too much upon it, is what are called the GROM. It's kind of complicated, but there's gram and there's GROM, and so it's just parts of memory that store information essentially. And there's all these predefined shapes that the Intellivision has, like the numbers, the alphabet, and then all these little funny shapes. If I can get the book open, all these little funny shapes here. You can see there. Squares and lines and stuff like that to actually help you create graphics on the screen. So there's a guide in here to show you what those GROM numbers are. You can find those through some of the codes, some of the applications that you get with IntelliBasic. And there's even well, it's not a doc file, it's a text file, but it's really hard to read it on the screen because it's done in kind of a text manner, whereas this actually gives you the full-on shapes. There's also toolkits that you can use to draw, which also is provided on the Atari Age forums, so you can grab that, and that's what I use. In fact, that's going to be my next video probably on making your own games. I'm going to touch upon some of the tools that you could use to help you create the graphics and design your screen and all that. But this book does give you that information. So I'm glad I picked it up. I wish I picked it up a lot sooner. It probably would have answered a lot of my questions that I had to go on the forums, and I had to ask Oscar himself, and I had to just sit there and try and figure it out. And when I started reading this book, I was like, it's just right there. It's right there in the first few chapters. Totally, I got it. Anyways, yeah, I just wanted to talk about it because, this would be a complimentary video to my creation of games, and if you're interested in learning the Intellivision on how to make games for the Intellivision, as far as I know, these are the only 2 books you can get. I know Oscar's written a lot of books on coding, but I think there's only 2 for the Intellivision. The rest are for other systems. So, great complimentary books. You don't have to have them. A lot of that information you can get online. You can get in the forums and stuff, but I am a visual learner. I like to look at books, and I think that these actually do help. Anyways, I know this was a little bit of a longer video than I wanted to make, but I just wanted to show you the differences in the 2 books and why you should or should not, or when you should pick up what book and what's going to help you and what's not. Because, in the beginning, I was kind of worried if I spend, money on buy both books or whatever, what if I don't get it, or what if I only needed the second book? So this might help to clear it up if you have those same questions as well. Anyways, Let me know what you think. If you're interested in coding, like I said, I got 2 videos up so far. I'm going to be making another one to help you out with tools. If you know, this is really just to get you started, get your feet wet, and you know, if it's something that interests you, or something that you've always wanted to get into, or maybe something you've done in the past and you want to resurrect it, it's a great area to start. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.